Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for One Piece chapter 981. Okay, so there's definitely a lot to talk about with this chapter, but let's start with the revelation that from the very beginning, Apoo has been allied with Kaido, even before he allied with Kid. I think from the way I understand it, the way Apoo explained it, pretty much from the very moment that basically Kaido had basically made his official his like official his official introduction into the story, that he's basically Apoo has been Kaido's subordinate, even like from basically from pretty much that point and even before that. So and so yeah, he's been working with Kaido for a long time, and the way that Apoo explains his reasoning as to why he was allied with Kaido, it's kind of hard to fully disagree with him, because if you think about it, up to this point, our our motley crew hasn't really had much luck in terms of truly defeating a Yonko. I mean, if you go back all the way to Whole Cake Island, it basically took the combination of practically all the Straw Hats just to subdue Big Mom, and in the end, it was only thanks to basically Sanji and the cake he made that they even managed to defeat Big Mom to begin with. And like in terms of the current situation, Oda has it's one of those things where Oda has given us pathways to defeating Kaido, but at the same time of giving us those pathways, he hasn't given us like full confidence either that defeating Kaido is an absolute certainty or even possible. In fact, it still feels very much like an impo. It's still, despite everything we've gotten, it still feels very much like an impossible mountain to climb when it comes to defeating Kaido. And in some ways, it's giving us that pretty much true sense of basically what pretty much Moria was talking about. That Kaido, in some way, Kaido and the Yonko in general, kind of represent the true power and the true terror of the new world. They are the reason that the new world is so hard to overcome. And like, yeah, with a lot of this, it's kind of putting us in basically Morio's shoes and how he felt when he was first defeated by Kaido. Like, it's not easy to defeat these people. It's just not. It's basically near impossible. Which again, I think I forget what the percentage was that that basically that pretty much Law had given in terms of the possibility of defeating Kaido. I think it was like 5% or something like that, or maybe 2%. But yeah, whatever the percentage was, yeah, Kaido right now is living up to that very low percentage. Living up to that very low percentage of success rate of defeating him right now. So yeah, and moving slightly away from that, though, one aspect of what Apoo said that I want to focus on is the bit where he says that an alliance between pirates never has a happy ending. And yeah, knowing Oda, that is his very subtle, not so subtle way of foreshadowing that at some point in the very near future, the alliance between Luffy and Law is going to dissolve, which isn't too surprising, as Robin did offhandedly warn Luffy that basically that pirate alliances that you can't fully trust, that there are dangers that come with pirate alliances, and pirates can't fully trust each other, that there's backstabbing and whatnot. And this concept has been kind of played up for laughs on occasion, like again back in going back to the Robin thing, going back to what is it? Going back to Punk Hazard, how it basically played up for laughs in the sense where Luffy asked Law, "Are you going to betray us?" And he said no. But yeah, that is kind of the reality of this thing. That there is no like real, there is no real, there's no real, there's no real true like permanent alliance when it comes to pirates. And the thing is, Luffy, and the thing is here, it does, like, Apoo's words do kind of expose that Luffy has been very easygoing when it comes to this alliance with Law, and treated it simply on the basis of good faith without ever thinking that Law will betray him. So just being reminded of that fact, Luffy himself hasn't entirely secured any leverage or done anything to ensure that this doesn't happen. I mean, he's basically left himself and his crew exposed to being used as sacrificial pawns when he least expects it. Unless Luffy has some way to prevent that worst case scenario, which I'm thinking, which I'm not saying it's not still going to happen, but I will say I think the reason as to why Law probably hasn't betrayed Luffy yet is probably because of timing. Like everything is kind of, I will say I think the reason is because everything has kind of worked in Luffy's favor at this point. Like I think for one thing too, I think the whole concept of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, that's probably the fact that Luffy has that has that in the wings. I think that's probably also another reason he's waiting for the right time in which they're probably not necessarily a thing to worry about, I think. But I think at this point it is kind of like it is an inevitability that Law and Luffy's alliance it's going to dissolve at some point. It's just a matter of when. And whether or not Luffy even has he's going to have what it takes in order to prevent that worst case scenario from happening or something. Now, obviously the big thing to talk about with this chapter is Marco's return, which, it was only a matter of time before he arrived on the scene, but spawning off from that, we see someone with a geisha-looking appearance talking to Mushi, which, I think it's clear as day that if Marco is here, then that person who looks like a geisha is definitely Izo. And the thing is, between both of these characters returning, it opens up the door for the very real possibility of the entire Whitebeard pirates returning and allying with the Luffy-Law Alliance, which I am definitely behind, because at this point, with both Kaido and Big Mom allied with each other, at the very least, Luffy and Law, I think we're going to need every bit of strength they can muster. And a dead Yonko's crew is probably the best thing you are going to get if you want that extra bit of insurance. Despite this very epic possibility, though, I still am holding out hope that we will very soon see the return of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, because not only will that complete the trifecta of alliances, but I think it could secure. Let me put it to you this way: with everything we've seen thus far, I think having the Straw Hat Grand Fleet is one of those things where it'll make things feel a little more secure. Like between the Whitebeard pirates possibly throwing themselves into the fray and the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, it feels like things will become a little more stable in terms of the possibility of defeating Kaido. I think at that point, not a guarantee, but at least a bit more of a more secure idea that he will be defeated, I think. Now, let's talk Killer, because we learn the circumstances by which he ended up in the predicament he did very early on in the series, which is that he ate the smile fruit because he was promised with the possibility of saving Kid, which shows the amount of loyalty that Killer has towards Kid, just as Zoro has to Luffy. But at the same time, it does give perspective as to why we basically saw him when as pretty much as the manslayer, like with that big smile on his face and crying. It's basically just his attempts to save the people he cared about ended in nothing but absolute failure up until this point, and how the only time he was given that opportunity was when he was thrown into Udon prison with Kid, and then and then when the whole jailbreak happened, like that was the only time he ever saw the time in order to rectify that mistake he made. So yeah, it is in its own way a little bit of tragedy for sure on his part. And yeah, after reading this chapter, all I can say is poor fucking Chopper. Like, after having only recently gotten rid of her, he still ends up coming face to face with Big Mom. And the kicker is, he wasn't even trying to find her, yet he still ended up coming across her. Like, he really is, in ways, like the anti-Luffy and the anti-Zoro, in the sense where Chopper obviously has a better sense of direction than both of those guys, but they still have the best luck, but they still have the better luck, but still have like absolutely insane luck, whereas Chopper has the absolute worst luck. And yeah, either this is an opportunity to negotiate with her, or Chopper's gonna need to get the fuck out of Dodge, like now. Like, bro, just get out. Get the fuck out, bro. you get the fuck out, bro. I'm just saying. One thing I do appreciate with this chapter, though, is how on one hand you'd think, seeing how things have gotten so out of control with Luffy, Kid, and whatnot, that you'd think the entire situation would have been blown up. But when we cut to the other side of the operation, things are actually going according to plan very well, pretty much. So yeah, it does show how much the plan did kind of was able to work around Luffy and Kid going insane. Luffy, Kid, and Zoro pretty much screwing things up, which again, just gotta love the pre-planning on that one. But the fact that supposedly everything is going so according to plan on the other side of things just proves that something is going to go wrong very, very soon. So yeah, we need to keep that in mind as well. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Oyster Control. Dead Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.